Tebow, and tonight we're going to talk about Social Security. Let me first tell you a little bit about me. Is this a good place for me to stand? I'm sorry, I just cut you off. I'm a retirement income certified professional. So what that means is I help people that are planning on someday retiring and actually retiring. And one of the key aspects that a lot of people have questions about are Social Security. So tonight we're going to talk about Social Security. I have to read this slide, or you have to read this slide, somebody does, because it's to let you know that this is an educational presentation and it's not intended for specific advice. And if you have questions regarding specific things, you should talk to a legal or tax advisor. So we're going to continue on. Who's Transamerica? Well, I was going to take this slide out, but then I thought every single slide on it has the word Transamerica on it. They're an insurance company, and the reason why I'm using this presentation is I looked online, and I like their presentation. It covers things that are very important to people. That's as far as it goes for me. So, why we're here today. When should you draw retirement? When should you draw your Social Security, right? Most people draw their Social Security when they can. Does anybody know what age that is?
62.
62. That's absolutely right. Most people will draw Social Security at 62 years old. Do you know why they do that?
Because they can.
Because they can. You're absolutely right. But should they? That's the question. Some people draw it because they need it. They need it to cover everyday living expenses. That's a good reason to draw it, because if you can't feed yourself, you might need it. But if you're still working or you have enough money not to draw Social Security, it might not be in your best interest, and you probably should at least look at postponing until full retirement. And we're going to talk about the reasons why tonight. So, first one, longevity. Right now, the people in this country are living longer and longer. How many people know somebody that's hit 90 years old, 95, 100? We're just living. And so 1 in 4 people age 65 is going to hit 90 years old. 1 in 10 is going to live past 95. So if you can get a bigger Social Security down the road, it might really help you out a lot. So, Social Security. Sorry about that. I just totally lost my. We're going to talk about Social Security. So we're going to first talk about where it came from. Social Security, back in the Depression, was put into place so the elderly would not live in poverty. And the month that Social Security went into place, a gentleman put in 5 cents. 1 month later, he retired, and they did it on a lump sum. He received 17 cents for his Social Security. Fast forward a few years, in 1940, they changed it to a monthly contribution that you would get. Well, Ida Mae Fuller received a check, her first one, for $22.24 when she retired. And she received over $22,000 from Social Security because she lived to be 100 years old back then. Pretty cool, huh? So, this is kind of funny. When Social Security first came out, they contemplated making dog tags. People like metal dog tags like people that were in the Army had. And they actually made a prototype of these, and they're hanging in the Social Security Administrative Office. They were the only ones made, but then we ended up getting the cardboard ones that we have today. Not quite the same as the ones today, though. The ones back then had your Social Security number on, and so there was a wallet company that was advertising their wallet and saying, hey, we even put a special spot right in it so you can slide your Social Security card in it. Works perfect. Well, unfortunately, he used his secretary's real Social Security card, and over 40,000 people tried to lay fraud against it. During her retirement years, she had a lot of dealings with the FBI because of that. Because there's a lot of crime out there. And I probably already talked this screen, so let's move it on. So why is Social Security important? 33% of your income that you generate in retirement comes from Social Security. Now, I have heard of people that think that Social Security is the all-being, and that's all they need. They don't need to save for retirement. Well, those people live below poverty usually because they haven't planned accordingly. And unfortunately, so a lot of people, they have their Social Security, earnings, because a lot of people in retirement, they continue to work. They might not work full time. I was talking to a client of mine today, and he's 76? He drives for a company, and he said he's working 80 hours a week right now just because they need him. And he enjoys it, and it gets him away from his wife. Hopefully he doesn't watch this, or she doesn't watch this. Other assets, private pensions, something that you set up yourself, employee pensions, and unfortunately, that's a small number nowadays because more and more people, they're not getting pensions anymore. And even companies that have pensions are, that's okay, their employers are switching out pensions. Okay, so now that you understand Social Security and where it came from a little bit, let's continue by addressing some of the common questions people have. Will Social Security be here for me? How are my benefits determined? How do I decide when to collect? I think that's one of the biggest questions. How do I use my spouse's benefits? And there's a couple kinky things about that, or quirky things. And how do survivors' benefits work? So let's first start out. The Social Security is still going to be here, right?
Better be.
Most people are like, oh my gosh, it's going to go away. I'm going to start at 62 because I'm going to get as much as I can before it's not here anymore, right? Well, Social Security is scheduled to have enough money to fully fund it till 2031. And then after that, if they don't do anything to fix the problem, they have enough to cover it till age, or 75%. So it's not like it's going away completely, and that's what people are thinking is, oh, it starts, and then it's going to be gone forever. That's not necessarily the case. Let's see. So I keep talking and talk in front of myself. So it's projected to go to actually 2035, and then 75% to 2091. I think I'll probably not be alive in 2091, but hopefully they fix the problem before then and it lasts a lot longer. So today, a 55-year-old won't likely have to worry about his or her benefits dropping until they're age 73. at the earliest, unless Social Security doesn't make any changes, which they're working on. Like, and of course, this is gonna be the next screen, but I was born after 1960, surprise. But that means I can't draw my full retirement right now until I'm 67. And when I'm working with people my age, I tell them, never count on more than 75% at the most. Sometimes I tell them, when you're calculating all the different assets of money that's coming in, you might want to look at Social Security at 50%, because if it's more, it's a bonus. But if it's less and you didn't plan for it, it's going to put you in a bad position, which is never a good thing to happen. So, challenges facing the program. Well, in 1960, it was a 5-to-1 working ratio of people paying in. Baby boomers, we're just piling in, right? 2016, 2.8% to every one person. And by 2035, it's going to be a 2.2-to-1 ratio. Well, the workforce is shrinking. More people are drawing. That's not good. So possible changes. Increase the tax rate for Social Security. So you know when you get your check every pay period and you're like, oh, Medicare, Social Security, oh, why? They're already taking federal and state. Well, they might have to increase that even more. It's kind of like buying insurance for your retirement. Higher maximum earnings subject to taxation. Did you know, probably everybody in this room doesn't have to worry about that at this time, because I'm going to say that all of your income you have to pay Social Security tax on. I know I do. But there's some high wage earners that they only have to pay to a certain point, and after that, they don't have to pay Social Security on that higher amount. If they raise that, that could help. Increase the full retirement age, which they have actually done. Like I said, I can't claim full retirement until I'm 67. And we're going to talk about where that goes. Decrease future benefits, like we said, 75% after 35. And reduce the cost of living adjustment. So right now, if you get Social Security, they give you a cost of living adjustment to go with inflation. So some years you get nothing because they say there's no inflation. Have a hard time with that because they don't consider like gas an inflationary thing, but I do when I'm working with one of my financial clients. And if you're not keeping up with inflation, that's not a great thing, but they're thinking of doing that. So these are all things that affect everybody. Anybody have questions so far? No. Okay, good. You guys are a great, quiet crowd. How are my benefits determined? So, first, full retirement age. Does everybody know what their full retirement age is? You don't have to tell me because we're going to talk about it later in the presentation. And then your primary insurance amount. And so what these two refer to, as we go along, you're going to see a lot of things that say FRA and PIA, just so you know, full retirement age is when you can start drawing Social Security and receive your full retirement benefit. And it's based on your primary insurance amount. That is how much you're going to receive. So, who's eligible? You have to work 40 credit. You have to have 40 credits to be eligible, which is usually 40 years. You can only get 4 credits a year, and it all depends on how much money, because you're like, oh, if I worked, then I got credits. I'm sorry. But if you work 1,000 hours, and you only make $1,000, you're not even entitled to one credit. You didn't work enough to get that credit. And it's determined by eligibility, not the amount of payment, which is actually wrong, because you do have to work a certain amount of time to get the credit. It's based on 35 years of working. So what if you didn't work 35 years? Do you know what happens to those other numbers?
Zero.
They're all zeros, exactly. So a lot of people say to me, I only need 10 years. I only have to work 10 years to get my 40 credits, and then I'm going to get the maximum out there. Well, if they're adding zeros because you only worked that 10 years, you're not in that good of a position, are you? And only related to individuals, you may still be eligible for spousal or survivor benefits. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Probably go a little more into detail, actually. So can I estimate my benefits? Absolutely. If you're age 60 or older and don't collect your benefits, you will get mailed a printed statement. Have everybody gotten a printed statement in the past? You can also go and set up your account on socialsecurity.gov and check it. And if you have never checked it, you probably should, because they sometimes make errors, not intentionally, but I have had people that have said that their record wasn't correct and they had to prove it. So it's a good thing to take care of. So the maximum monthly Social Security benefit for 2018 is $2,788 a month. That's not bad, right? I mean,
That would be great.
that would be great.
I
But
love that.
the average person doesn't make that amount because they might have decided they're going to start drawing at 62. So now they're taking a discounted payment by drawing it at 62. They might have been underemployed, or not underemployed, but unemployed during part of their working career. They took a break to take care of their children, an aging parent. There's many reasons that people have to step away from the workforce. And those all of a sudden are adding zeros when they're calculating this out. So you need to know how much you're going to actually be generating. So how are my benefits determined? We've got your full retirement age, right? We talked about that. The reduced, you can start the first day you turn 62 years old, and it increases every month after that. So say you decided to start at 64 years old, you're still not full retirement age, but you're going to make more from Social Security than you would had you started at 62. And you could delay it up to age 70. There's no reason to delay it more than 70 because it won't increase anymore. So it doesn't do that 8% roll up, which you get if you wait.
So every year beyond 62, put up to,
70.
it
It's like 72%.
increases it a little bit the longer by each year.
Approximately 8%. So I'm not sure if you have investments that are making a couple percent, and you could potentially use that, and especially if you have longevity in your family, I know myself, my father has 14 brothers and sisters, and my first uncle died at age 90 this year. He wasn't the oldest, but he had gotten hit by a car, and he had medical issues after that. So, and on my mother's side, my grandmother lived to 96, so I'm planning for the long haul for myself. So, depending on where you were born, this tells you when you can actually start drawing Social Security for full retirement age. So, if I was born in 1942, 65 and 10 months is when I can start drawing Social Security and get my full benefit, which doesn't affect my pay. All the way to, if you were born after 1960, it's 67 right now. I'm going to say that number's probably going to continue to rise. Any questions on that? Everybody find their space where they can actually get that full retirement amount? So, you can claim Social Security benefits as early as 62, but every year you wait, it increases your benefit, so you're losing if you draw early. You know, again, some people, they need to draw early. Some people shouldn't draw early. I have to tell this story right here because I have a client, and she was a very high-skilled nurse and made a very decent living, and all of her friends were retired, and all of them were drawing at 62. So they're like, you have to draw at 62 because Social Security might not be there. Well, it didn't make any sense because she's drawing Social Security, and then she couldn't keep the money because she was making over, at that time, it was $14,000 a year. And after that, for every dollar you make, you have to pay back $1 for every $2 you make over that. And she was like, well, why didn't somebody tell me this? I was like, why didn't we have this conversation? So, let's see. Nowadays, if you make more than $17,040 between the age of 62 and your full retirement age, you have to pay back $1 for every $2 you make above that limit. And if in that year you start drawing Social Security, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to start drawing Social Security today, but I don't turn full retirement for another 6 months. You know where I'm going with this, right? You have to pay back $1 for every $3 you earned above the limit. So once you turn full retirement age, though, you can make as much money as possible and not have to pay anything back. I have a client, he turned 66 and 10 months or whatever it was, and then he started drawing his, he was 66. He started drawing Social Security, and he continued working so that he could build an emergency fund for retirement. It made sense for him. He didn't have one before. He couldn't afford to do it. Things to think about. Option 3, filing after full retirement. So this is what we were talking about. If you were born between 1941 and 1942, it continues to roll up at 7.5%. How many people have a fixed account out there that's rolling up at 7.5%? Anybody? No. If you were born after 1943, if you haven't turned on your full retirement at your full retirement age until 70, it increases at 8% every single year. So you probably should have that conversation with your financial professional and say, hey, what makes the most sense? Where should I get this money if you need it? How do you decide when to collect? Well, look at this. We're looking at $1,000. This, or benefit is $1,300. Sorry. So at 66 2 months, he would get his $1,300. But if he started at 62, it's only $964. This is just showing you the difference. If I wait till 70, I'm getting $1,698 a month. And you're like, yeah, but I could die, right? Everybody could die. I know I could die any day. But there's a crossover of about 85. Social Security anticipates women are going to die in their calculations at 86 and men are going to die at 84. Well, people live a lot longer than that nowadays. We saw that earlier in the projection. Most people we know are in their 90s, so they've crossed that. Isn't it better to have more money if you've got longevity? And again, I do not work for Social Security. They probably want everybody to take their money early. The average annual return of waiting, we talked about that, delaying to 78% a year. The S&P 500's average 7.44%. U.S. Treasury, 3.74%. Bank CDs, 0.93%. Sometimes you can get a better rate. I just have to go to the poor CDs that kind of are thrown under the bus here in this presentation. If you shop around, sometimes you can find a 5-year CD paying a little bit better. I just wanted to put that out there. Again, I don't work for a bank either, but so hypothetical break-even point. We can see if you take it at 62, 66, because you're losing money in the first years. If you're planning on dying at 65, not planning like you didn't put, but you're diagnosed with cancer, and God forbid, we hear about that all the time nowadays, or you don't have longevity, you have diabetes, there's a lot of things that could help shorten your life. It might make sense, and especially if you're not working, to draw it sooner. But if you got that longevity, at least wait until 66, or your full retirement makes a lot of sense. But if you have real longevity and you're planning on living into your 90s, which I am, 70's probably the smart choice for you. Again, don't make any decisions without talking to your financial advisor, because they're going to help you make the best financial decision for you. So, other things to consider. We just talked about this. Oh, health. What if we're sick? Or we live a long time. Marital status. Excuse me. You know, was one of you making a lot more money than the other? You're in the workforce. What happens if you weren't in the workforce a long time? Zeros. Do you have other retirement assets, and what are they making for you? So we're going to look at that. How do I use spousal benefits? Oh. So, you can't file and suspend. I bet you everybody in this room has heard about file and suspend, right? File and suspend. So in the past, Social Security had this thing where I'm working and I make a decent income. So my Social Security is higher than my spouse's. My spouse has decided to retire. If I filed saying I was going to draw Social Security and then suspended, my spouse could draw off it. They took that away. I have to file and actually retire nowadays and draw that Social Security to get it. So you must be 62, both parties. A lot of people think, oh, well, my husband or my wife is older, they're drawing, so I should be able to draw half of for them. You have, both parties have to be 62 in most situations unless it's a disability or because somebody's passed. And the amount is reduced if taken before full retirement age. And we know what full retirement age is, right? It's the 65, 66, 67, wherever you are. And for your spouse, it doesn't increase. So if you're getting, we're gonna use $1,000. If you're getting $1,000 at 66 years old, and you're like, well, I'm gonna wait another year and for my spouse to start drawing on it, she's still only gonna get $500 because it does not increase like your 8% continue to increase. Theirs does not. They only get half of the full retirement age. And if any of you ladies are divorced and you didn't remarry, then you can claim, and you were married for at least 10 years, you can claim against your ex-spouse's Social Security. And you don't need their permission because it doesn't affect their Social Security at all. And I'm okay, on camera, I won't say this, never mind.
So that's at 50% of their.
That, correct, okay, that's at 50%, but this is, the person's still alive. But when that person dies, if you're drawing on theirs, you get 100%. So if
If you're
not remarried,
No, but what about if they die and you're making more money?
Well, then you wanna go on your own.
17,000, then you can't draw off theirs.
you only want to go, whichever's higher, you want to go on whoever's higher. But if if your Social Security is less than the other person and they die, then you can switch to the other person's Social Security. But if yours is higher, then that would make no sense at all to do. Does that make sense? You look completely lost.
I was told that you could draw off you could draw survivor benefit, like if my husband died
Mm-hmm.
and I was making under 17,000,
Mm-hmm.
I could draw off his first, and then I could draw off mine at my full retirement age.
You could draw off of his at the reduced rate, correct?
His reduced rate, which is what?
Whatever,
50%?
I don't know at his full retirement age, so
Oh, I
say he started drawing at 62,
Well,
he's got a reduced rate. We had talked about, like that hypothetical was 900 versus the full retirement age, they would get 1,300. You would get your portion of his reduced rate.
I think so. I guess I understand. I missed part of your first message, so I walked in late, so.
If you were married, your husband dies.
Yeah. My husband died 9 years ago,
Your husband died 9 years ago, so you can start drawing on his,
and I'm 62, but I'm
You can
still working.
so you could draw on his Social Security, but it depends on how much you're making.
So, but if, hypothetically, if I was making under the
Under-
17,000.
Correct, okay.
So
I think we're on two different
he
pages.
He would get what percent of his, or could draw what percent of his?
Whatever the value is at that time.
So the full face amount of his Social Security,
Right, so was he
50%?
correct? She would draw 100% of his Social Security because he has passed.
Okay, and then say if I was born in 1956 and I'm up to that 66 in 4 months. So when I
You
reach
could
that
switch-
age, then I could switch over to
That is correct.
mine.
That
As
is
long as
correct.
I'm making under the 17,000?
No, you don't have, you have no restrictions at that point in time.
Oh, yeah, sure, okay.
So you could make $100,000 and it wouldn't matter. You'd have to pay tax on your Social Security, but
Yes, you do. You've been through this 100 times, because you're getting 100% of Gary's.
Well, what happened to mine?
you only can get one. You're not,
And his was way higher than yours.
Well, yes, of course it was.
right, so
you're getting 100% of
you get
his.
100% of his. Well,
It doesn't seem fair. He pays in, we
And you
pay
pay
in,
in,
but we
right.
don't get ours, but we have to take theirs.
Well,
It
that's
doesn't
the-
make sense.
that's one thing
That's
you
how Social
have.
Security stays in business.
If they do.
Yeah, but on the
That's
other,
true.
but on the other hand, if the person had been married 4 times, they could have somebody drawing off of their Social Security 4 times too.
Yeah, but if I've paid in for 35, 40 years and I can't draw,
Right.
that doesn't make sense. I mean,
Well,
the
you
Social
are-
Security is keeping
Yeah.
your money.
They're letting you, but the other person's dead and they're
They
letting
paid
you.
in, but if they
But
paid
you-
in all those years,
But
you know
if,
what I mean?
okay, so I'm
It's
gonna
our
go.
money. I don't
I'm
get
gonna go
why
back
we
to.
don't get it.
I'm gonna go back to like a pension, with IBM. I'm gonna pick on IBM because I know they have still, there's a lot of people that have pensions with IBM. If you take a life only annuity and that's kind of like what Social Security is, when that person dies, it's done. Nobody gets any more. At least with Social Security, they say when that person dies, they're gonna let you, if that was larger, take the larger amount.
I still don't think it's fair.
I'm not saying it's fair, and I don't work for Social Security.
Every paycheck I get, they take money out of Social Security out of my check. You know what I'm saying? But I wouldn't be able to claim it if his is more than mine.
So can she opt to not pay into Social Security? Oh, okay.
I pay into Social Security with my
Right,
Social Security check from Gary.
right.
Right, you,
You
Pay in.
you have to
You
pay,
pay into Social Security with Social Security?
Uh-huh.
For what? What do you pay in for?
okay. So,
So we're gonna move off this.
Because I didn't run fast enough.
so we're
I
gonna
don't
have
know.
some case study here.
It's ridiculous.
Yes, it is.
Frank and Ellen are married. Frank's a high wage earner. Ellen is a low wage earner. So Frank's PIA, does anybody remember what that is?
Insurance or something.
Yes, it's the insurance that guarantees your benefit. And Ellen's is $600. So if they retire together early and they start drawing Social Security, Frank's gonna get $2,600 and Ellen's gonna get $1,300 because $1,300 is more than $600, correct? But what happens if Frank dies early? And
Then she's only gonna get 2,600.
then she's only gonna get $2,600. It's going to not increase anymore because it's based on the PMI. But if Frank delayed his benefits until 70 instead, it continues to grow. And he's gonna get a larger amount, which is on the next slide, and I keep doing this, jumping forward. And he could, once Frank files for his benefits, okay, let's back up, sorry about that. Ellen instead could draw on hers now, this is kind of what I think what you were asking about, and then down the road, when Frank starts drawing on his, because he's letting it grow to a higher amount, she could switch to half of his, but it's still based on his full retirement age. So she's still only going to get $1,300. But if it makes it larger, so when he dies, she gets the full amount of what it was valued at. So it went up to $3,432 because he waited till 70. So it increased his benefit that he's going to get and he's going to draw on. They did lose some money, right? Because she was only getting $600. But now, if she's got longevity, maybe Frank doesn't, she was going to lose something. He gave more money for himself when he started to draw, plus when he dies, his wife gets to draw that full amount instead of that lesser amount. Does
So,
that make sense?
But you said the maximum amount for any one person was $27.88.
This is a hypothetical.
Okay. I just was wondering like how I could get above that.
Yeah.
Okay. I was
You
gonna
are-
start scheming.
No, that's at full retirement.
Right.
And so he was at
Oh,
26.
he was above, I see,
He was at
okay.
26.
Okay.
He continued going on to age 70
Right.
without drawing. So
So it goes up, okay.
yes, it continues to roll up at 8% every single year. So claim rate. So they foregoed $158,000 for that 4 years that they didn't draw. That's a lot of money, isn't it? Yeah, by waiting. But if either Frank or Ellen live past 86, and we know life expectancy is past 86, they're going to have crossed that line where they're making more money every single year moving forward. Plus, Frank's annual benefit that he's receiving is $9,984 higher than if he would have claimed at his full retirement age. And leaving them more money to live on. And especially if he's working and they don't need that money. Because once you retire, it's hard to, and you're completely retired, it's hard to go back to work. I did meet a woman yesterday, 84 years old, and she still works, and I said, really? And she works at a banquet hall. And I was like, that's amazing. She goes, well, what else would I do, and how would I get exercise? Okay, good for you.
Good idea.
So it was awesome. But anyway, so if Frank and Ellen had similar lifestyles instead, resulting in similar Social Security amounts, if they were born before January 2nd, 1954, I don't know if anybody in this room falls into this category. Okay, so for this scenario, suppose Ellen's benefit is $2,000 and Frank's is $2,600. If Ellen claims her full benefit at full retirement age, Frank can file a restricted claim against her, getting 50% of hers, and he can let his continue to grow so that when he turns 70, he can switch to his and start getting $3,400. Now his is larger. You're like, and if whoever dies first, they're going to get a bigger payout. People used to do this all the time before this past year. It didn't matter what your age range was. But the government caught on because people were doing private access things and sending it to the government. Okay. Let's see. Similar earnings income. And it just kind of shows you what we just talked about. That at 62, they start claiming on Ellen's because Frank's is larger. Frank gets half of her benefit. At 70, he switches. His benefit is full retirement, or he's got the maximum benefit now. And now they have a larger pot of money.
So she still gets her full retirement plus he gets half of hers?
Correct. As long as they're alive.
Yeah.
And born
And
before
born
1954.
Correct.
And if you're born after?
They don't allow for file and suspend and let you do that anymore. Unfortunately. How do survivor benefits work? Okay, survivor receives 100% of the deceased's spouse benefit,
If you make under 17,000.
right? Well, once you turn
Maybe
full
mom and dad, I go
retirement,
with my mom and dad.
you get 100%.
Okay.
So if you, at 60 years old, survivor spouse can start drawing off of their spouse's social security. But you're right, you have to make under the $17,000. But once you hit full retirement age, so if your full retirement age is 66, you can make all you want to make and still get 100% of their social security.
So what if your spouse passes before they're at full retirement age?
Yeah, 'cause my husband died at 54.
So,
it's, do they calculate what a reduced, because he
amount.
obviously hasn't filed for his own claim, right? So it would be
it
his
would be
reduced rate.
right, because as it is, you're looking at all the zeros that go into
Right.
it. There's the 35 greatest pay years minus the zeros
Right.
that go into it to calculate the full retirement, and then drawing it early, it's going to be a reduced amount.
Did Gary wait till he was 62 to draw?
Exceptions is an accident, otherwise you have to have been married 9 months before the time of death. Survivors get full benefits. Oh, wait, no, here we go. Answered the question and I was wrong. Survivors get full benefit at full retirement age. No, I was right. And must be at least 60 to get the reduced
I really
benefits.
hope you can come.
So, it looks like that you get the reduced benefit, and then at 66, survivors get full benefit.
If you're working under 17,000.
No,
If you're
full
retirement age,
you doesn't have
Oh, yeah,
anything to
that's
do
right.
with that 17,000
Okay.
anymore. Benefits not available to surviving spouse
It says,
before
remember,
age
if
60.
surviving spouses move up to claim a deceased, they do not keep their original benefit.
That's right. And that's what you were talking about too. You only get to claim one of them. And surviving spouse, ex-spouse, you have to have been married for 10 years. I always tell people, I'm a certified divorce financial analyst, and I tell people, if you're thinking about divorcing after 9 years and 9 months, wait an additional 3 months. If it benefits you, right?
Try not to kill them during that time.
And try not to kill them during that. Yeah, but then, okay, so those, let's see, combined amount, what? Okay, so, sorry, was like, what? Combined income, so if you're making more than just Social Security, which hopefully, unless you want to live in poverty, have other assets so that you're not living in Social Security. If you're making between $25,000 and $34,000, you could pay up to 50% tax. Up to 50% of your Social Security is taxable. All the way up to 85% of your Social Security is taxable. There's always 15% that they don't tax. I hear in 2019, this is supposed to change. I don't want to comment on that at this point in time because I haven't seen that go into effect, and I've asked my tax accountant for tax advice on the subject, and she said it's very confusing and we have to sit down and talk. So
So they tax your retirement?
they tax your Social Security. If you make more than just what your Social Security is, if you make anything more, you
Is that
can,
at full retirement or before full retirement?
all the time. You can pay you could pay tax on up to 85% of the income. The tax is at 85%, but if you make $1,000, they could tax 85% of that $1,000, so.
So you have to pay that in at the end of the year?
They
How-
ask you, wait on your Social Security, they say, do you want us to withhold taxes? So some people just have taxes withheld along the way, and then they get their check, they file their taxes, and they either get a check returned back or not,
And that's federal tax, federal income tax.
and state.
No, I thought Vermont just changed their law
Well, they,
about
they,
the state income
that-
tax.
yes, but we're not at the end of the year yet. That's,
Right, okay,
so
it may change.
it may change. On January 31st, when people are filing their taxes, I'm going to agree with you,
Okay.
okay? Word about Medicare. Am I wrong? So, everybody, as confusing as Social Security is, Medicare is more confusing. Okay, I have time to go into this just a little. Medicare covers, everybody thinks Medicare covers their medical expenses when they turn 65. I have clients all the time say to me, oh, I can't wait to turn 65, and I'm like, really? I won't have to pay for health insurance anymore, I'm gonna go on Medicare. And I'm like, well, do you know how Medicare works? And they're like, no. So first and foremost, when you turn 65, you automatically are enrolled in Part A. If you're drawing Social Security, they know you're there. Otherwise, you need to apply. Part B, if you're drawing Social Security, is automatically added to it, and you have to say you don't want it. If you have credible coverage someplace else, say you work at the hospital, IBM, a large company, because if you don't work in a large company, even if you have health insurance with them, it's not considered credible coverage. And you will have a 10% penalty for every year you wait and don't have Part B. So we don't want to have penalties. And if you work for an employer that does have credible coverage, they're going to give you a letter. You make sure you take that letter, you put it in your safety deposit box, you'll put it at the bank. Keep it safe. It is sacred, because along the way, you're going to need to show that letter to somebody to prove that you had credible coverage. Because if you don't have that letter, they have no idea that you had insurance, even though they document everything. They have no idea that you have that, and you will have that penalty. And I've come across people that didn't know where that letter was, and I was like, you need to find it. So with and you have to pay for Part B. It's not a free.
Comes right out of your Social
It
Security.
comes right, unless you're not drawing
not
Social
drawing.
Security, and then you have to write them a check every 3 months for the program.
Now, is that for hospital coverage?
No, Part A is hospital coverage,
Okay.
and Part B is for outpatient and doctor's visits. And Medicare covers, there's a deductible, you've got to pay up front. Then they also have, you pay 20%, they pay 80%. So you
How's
have,
the deductible? I didn't know they had a deductible.
the hospitalization is 1,500 and something, I'm not
Okay. Okay.
but it's a substantial amount that you have to pay before they pick up anything. And Part B is the same way, it's like $160 for the year that you have to pick up before. And so it's really convoluted, and so they don't pay it all, so people get supplemental plans, advantage plans. When you get to that point, sit down with a professional to find out what makes the most sense for you. And the last note I'm gonna put on that part is drug plan. It's voluntary. But if you don't have a drug plan because you don't take any prescriptions, do you know the answer to this? There's
No.
They're gonna penalize us.
they're gonna penalize you.
Yes, they are.
There's a 1%,
I'm moving to Canada.
there's a 1% penalty per month until you sign up. and it never goes away. Just like with B, once you get that penalty, it's there. So you wanna make sure you do
It's there every year? For the
the rest
penalty?
of your life, yes.
Are you
It
kidding?
never goes away. That is correct.
That's terrible. We live in the wrong country. I'm telling you.
So, questions?
I'm kidding. We just don't follow the.
You guys had some good questions, but, yes,
I have a question, but it's kind of off your presentation.
that's okay.
Um,
I'm
my
not-
mother is very close to having a doctor say that she's disabled because of her vision. Now,
Okay,
she collects Social Security, she gets 100% because of her deceased husband's
Yeah.
benefits. Is it worth applying for Social Security disability? Is it going to make her payment go up, or is it gonna be all work and no?
I would think it's probably gonna be and I don't know without looking into this, but I would say it's probably gonna be more work, especially if she's drawing fully off her husband's benefit anyway.
Can you only have one of the two?
That is correct. So
And
it's,
the disability benefits,
you can't have both.
but is that the same dollar amount as just Social Security?
Well, if it was drawn on her disability benefit, it would be less. And without seeing the statement, I don't know, but I'm gonna say that since she's already drawing, she's probably not gonna be drawing more,
Anymore.
unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, hers was much less. She had jobs over the years that she didn't contribute, so.
Okay. Yeah, there's,
Hers
I
was
mean, like I
much
said,
less.
without seeing it and,
So a disability is based on what her retirement would be.
right, but even if
she
it was
filed
based
under her
on
own.
his, then usually
Usually always less
it's
than it.
always, it's usually less than what you get for actual Social Security.
Okay. And you only
So-
get one or the other?
And you only get one or the other.
Okay,
You can't qualify for both,
okay.
unfortunately. Any other questions?
I'm going to work for Social Security.
Don't go to
Could you
Burlington, I
change
go
the
down and
rules?
scream at those people periodically. So it makes me
I'm
feel
gonna go
good.
lobby at the
Something
legislature.
similar to spousal benefit for minors.
Sorry, where's the library?
Yes, there is. If the person dies, is that what you're talking about?
No. That, I heard that if someone reaches, full retirement age and
Oh,
collects their social
Yes,
security
yes,
and has
yes,
a minor
yes,
child still in
yes.
the home.
Yes, absolutely.
So what happens?
It's a child benefit, I think, under the age of 16, that they would also draw, like, I'm 66 and I retire, I'm drawing my Social Security, and I have a child that's 12 years old at home. They get a Social Security, check.
Okay, so that's gonna
Awful.
apply to me, because I have two adopted children, I'm 62, but they already collect $20 a month from their mother's Social Security disability. How does that work?
So would they get a higher? So
Is
what do
yours
they
higher?
base the amount that children get? What is that amount?
Well, again, there's this, I've never heard of that situation, but it's a calculation, so the only way I know is, like when I get one of those statements, and it says your full retirement, blah, 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 disability amount, what that is, child benefit, how much that is, and it'll tell you, so maybe if they switched from hers to yours, they could get a larger amount.
Yeah, because I am the legal parent, because I've adopted my grandchildren.
Okay, so you should, instead of, they would probably get more off of you than they will from her, just off of her
And
disability.
what's the age?
Up to 16.
So, and were they adopted before your husband passed?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say, why can't they claim off his, but, no.
No, but that, in Social Security, they get like 840,000 people that flock to them and call them every single week, because there's things like this that, I'm just a financial planner. You know, each individual circumstance is different. So if you came in and sat down with me, we were trying to figure this out, I would figure it out for you, but it's not something that, you know, I have in my quiver, because that question I've never heard before until you just said.
They already get $20 a month.
Right.
Or $22 a
But-
month
She was
but
disabled.
off of their mothers. Yeah.
Right, but I'm just thinking, since you have legal custody of them now, that they instead might be having a larger amount of money that they could get drawing off of you instead.
But I'm not 65 yet. I have to be 65, right?
You have to be drawing the social security.
You have to be drawing the social security. But you're drawing on your husband.
You
that?
drawing your husband's
You're drawing on your
Social Security?
husband's.
No, because I'm still working.
Oh,
And
okay.
I make over the 17,000.
Okay, never mind. I thought you were drawing off your husband's.
So, will they still be under the age of 16 when you reach full retirement age?
I think. I'm 62, 63, 64, 65, 66. Jackson's 13.
Nope.
By a year.
He'll just-
That just sucks.
Yeah, everything
Good.
doesn't work out. Well, whatever.
So,
But if you draw early off your husband's and then took a part-time job,
but it might
I'll
not.
figure this out for you.
So if I went part-time, made him the 17,000, draw off my husband's,
No, you draw off
then
your,
I could,
you draw off your own, because yours is probably more than his.
okay, well,
I
Yeah,
don't.
because he didn't draw it. He didn't wait till 62
Here, I'll
to
give you my
pass.
card. You can call me. I'll help you figure this out. How about that?
sure, that'd be wonderful.
Because
That's why I'm here.
But, because those are questions that, again, you sit down with a financial, can everybody sign in, please? Professional, and that's what I do. Like I said at the very beginning, which you guys all miss, is I'm a retirement income certified professional. And I look at the whole picture. I help people figure out when they should draw Social Security, what assets they should start drawing from, at what time. Do they need to work a little bit longer? Or does it make sense to retire a little bit earlier? There's a lot of, you don't know until you know, until
That's
you
right.
get a lot of data and information,
So true.
unfortunately.
I've been in a quandary for like, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do?
Yeah, well, you don't know. So I'm walking away and you're unplugging, right? You're done, good.
Okay.
Here, I'll even give you a card. I gave your wife a card, but I'll give you one too. Colchester's not that far.
If somebody were to, say I were to start drawing at 62,
Uh-huh.
if my husband were to pass,
Uh-huh.
could I draw against his instead of mine?
Yes.
When somebody is deceased, or if I pass
Yes.
first,
Yes.
could he change his to mine?
It's whichever's the greatest.
Greater, that either one can do that.
Either one can switch. It's not sexist. They let you, if it's the whoever has the higher amount when that person,
Even though you've already started your own.
doesn't matter. Because I could be drawing on mine and it's only 1,300 and my husband's is 2,000. But, so half of his is less than what I can draw off of my own, but once he dies, I would lose his or mine. I would rather lose mine, that's
And you
only,
draw the full amount.
and I
of
drew the
his.
full
Full
amount.
amount of whoever's.
Correct.
Okay, and then the next thing is, how long does it take if somebody doesn't start at 62
Mhm,
and you wait until 66 and 4 months?
mhm.
On an average, how many years does it take to make up losing that
That's-
48 months worth of?
That's what we were talking about. It's about 84. To age 84.
No. No, I think that was just at 70. This was, if you don't start at 62 and you wait until 66 in 4 months, and so you've lost 48 months worth of monthly checks. How many years? Is it 7 more years that you have to live to catch up, to make up the
It's an
difference for what you
addition,
lost?
you have to work, it's sorry, I misunderstood what you said to begin with. It's like 74 years old before, like if you start at 66, it's about 74 before you've crossed that finish line, that crossover.
And that makes up the difference, that's when
Correct.
you've made up those 48 months of lost payments, is at
Correct.
age
Is
74.
what, age 74?
Right. It could be 75, it all depends because
Okay.
it's a moving number because retirement can be at 65, could be at 66, it could be at 66 and 10 months. So that number is a harder number to pin down because unless you were born the same month as somebody else, it's a different answer. But approximately there.
You'd have to, at age 74, you make up the 4 years you've missed.
Right, we'd have to sit down and calculate it out and say,
So really,
you want to figure it, right, you want to figure it out, but that's approximate. If you sit down with somebody, you figure out what you made, what you would have made, and for you, when you're actually retiring, what the exact date is. But we don't know if we're going to live that long. Or, again, nobody knows.
and if somebody doesn't take it at 62, you take it at 63 or 63 and a half, whatever, it's that a little bit much
It's a little bit more.
each year.
Until you
Exactly.
reach 70 and then it's no more.
That is correct. Once you hit 70, there's no reason not to start drawing Social Security at 70 years old because,
You can earn as much as you want
right,
and still get the payment.
and, well,
And there's no additional benefit.
and there's no, that's the big thing, there's no
Right.
additional.
You're
because-
actually losing income at that point. Because you
Exactly,
wouldn't have that.
exactly. But at your full retirement age, which 66
Don't they
or
penalize you if you
67,
don't start drawing it?
you have to start drawing it.
You have to start drawing
It's
At 70?
at 70.
Yeah.
And I think what you're thinking about is like if you have a 401k or an IRA,
Yeah.
if you don't start drawing, totally different subject, but if you don't start drawing, it's a 50% penalty for not taking out your required minimum distribution
At what age?
at 70 and a half.
Okay,
So if,
that's good to know.
Well-
Unless it's a Roth.
unless it's a Roth, you are absolutely correct. Or unless you're still working.
The bank.
And if you're still working, then and it's a 401k or a 403b, you don't have to start taking the assets out. But if you've retired at 70 and a half, and I know of people that they're like, I don't want this money, I don't need this money.
Put it in a savings account.
Doesn't matter.
Put it someplace,
Yeah.
Put it somewhere, take it out.
If they
Take it.
manage it themselves.
take it while you
then-
can, and they will notify you, because pennies always took out for me, and I never started anything, but when all of a sudden I reached 70,
They
they
have
said
to
I
know.
had to do something, they,
They notify you.
yes, and you got months to decide, I mean, it was, I don't know, 6 or 8 months, something like
They
that,
send you the statement, yeah,
and you do
a
it,
ton of time. But some people don't look at it, some people,
just throw it away.
just throw it away, oh, more junk, whatever. I'm just saying that at 70 and a half, if you don't start drawing, that could be substantial. If you have $100,000 and you have to take, I think the first year it's like 3.4% of the value, in the next year it goes up, and every single year it increases the amount that you have to take out. I'd rather just take the money out and put it in my savings or put it
Yeah.
wherever.
Give it to your children.
Give it to your children, yeah,
Never thought of that.
give it to your children.
There's that entitlement generation.
I don't know, Kelly, you always made more than me, so I'm not sure about that.
But it's 3.4 of the retirement amount? is
Well,
what-
that's just the very first time, and then that number goes up every single year.
Okay.
I've got, if I was in my office, I could tell you exactly, because I have the calculation that breaks it all down, but, so I don't, it's kind of useless data because it's all written down, but I just know the first one is 3.4. Any other questions?
How far ahead of collecting do you need to apply
Oh, you could have,
Social Security?
well,
It takes like 3 months?
Yes.
Yeah, I can't apply today and expect to get a check next month.
no, absolutely, it
And
doesn't,
even after you get your first check, they'll probably say, send it back.
If you wanna go and see him, you can't even get an appointment, there's no appointments to be gotten.
That's
Really?
right.
Yeah, this sucks.
huh,
Yeah.
And if you do get an
And I heard
appointment
if
and
you
you
don't
park on the
apply,
street, you
then
get
you
a
get
$75
penalized.
parking
If you don't
ticket.
apply 3 months before
where do
your
you go
retirement.
to social?
Burlington.
Ask her, I think,
Really?
I think.
No, now it's on,
Oh, they've
Lake-
moved,
Yeah, that's
right,
it's
Lake
moved down
Street.
Lakeside.
which is much
Lakeside
nicer,
Oh,
free
yeah.
parking down there.
What do you
Yeah,
do
although
with the
that's
rest
why I
of the
was like,
parking
where
lot?
are you going?
No, before when we first started taking her, it was,
Okay.
it was on
she
Pearl
said you
Street.
parked in the wrong place, you get a $75 ticket to
Yeah.
go there.
Jeez.
I don't know if you missed that.
Ask her if she
And-
paid it.
And I did, but the other thing that happened was we're talking to the man,
Yeah.
who's very nice, they're very pleasant, I mean, he was very helpful. And it was his break time and he pulls his curtain down,
While you were talking to him?
right in the middle of our conversation.
Yeah, and he went
And he
for
took his
break.
break and then he came back and opened it back up. Unfortunately, the guard that's in the waiting room said to us, he's coming back, hurry up, get back to his window so he doesn't call someone else. So we ran back to
Did
the
he even
window.
tell you what he was doing?
He said, I have to take my break
Take
now.
a break.
We're like, okay, like I started looking around for a candid camera, like what is this? Yeah, he just pulls his shade and off he goes.
Wow.
Is it true that you get penalized if you don't apply for Social Security 3 months before your retirement age, or before you plan to retire?
No.
No.
I think so.
I thought I heard that.
You have 3 months before the month of and 3 months after
Okay.
to apply.
Oh,
Now,
wait, what do you mean, 3 months before and 3 after?
you can apply anytime during that time
You
frame.
can't apply any other time?
Well, say you, no, you could, oh, I was thinking, never mind. Erase everything I just
Yeah,
said.
what do
I
you
think
think?
that's Medicare.
That was Medicare, that's exactly, I was like, I was talking Medicare, and so, with Social Security,
It would
whenever
just
you-
delay
So it
when
is
you get your
Medicare,
first
it's the
check.
Medicare.
It's the
that you have to
Medicare.
apply.
you have to, yes,
If you
that's,
don't, if you know you're gonna be turning 65 and you don't apply for it,
Yes.
then you'll get penalized? Something
If
like
you
that.
don't
Yes.
have
And she
credible
said, and
coverage.
if you don't have credible coverage.
And the penalty never goes away, even
And the
if you
never- and the
have, even
penal-
if you get the credible coverage.
That is
Apply 3
correct.
months
That's what I was
before.
talking about is
You have 3
Medicare,
months
that's,
before,
but with
3
Social
months after.
Security,
Okay.
when you decide you
To
wanna
apply for
claim,
Medicare.
you just, you wanna put it 3 months out because it's, you're not going to claim today and get your check next month. It just doesn't happen that way. But besides
You
that,
can't even get an
And then,
appointment within
and then
that time.
if you, they get notified automatically when someone passes.
yeah,
So they issue a check and then they take it back.
The
And then they
funeral
issue a
home-
check and take it
The
back.
funeral home is the one
Well,
that
whoever
tells them.
notifies them, yeah.
And if they don't tell them, then it doesn't happen.
that's why people, never mind.
Don't use funeral homes.
No, just make sure it stay on
And then when you
that.
claim for the
Watch the
spousal
statement.
one, they write you a check and then they take it back. And then they give you your check and then they take that back.
It took like for a long time.
It took,
They just
I
kept
bet it
taking
was
away
what,
checks.
4 months before
Yeah,
it
they
got
just kept
straightened
taking
out.
checks back.
Wow.
So I
And
didn't
there's
even
a-
take them to the bank. I
You know,
just,
a direct deposit and
Yeah.
that her
From next.
mortgage came out of, so like the mortgage wasn't getting paid because the check would go in and go out. They'd put it in and take it back and then they, oh, it was a
How do
disaster.
they,
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
yeah, it was crazy.
how do they
You should have lived through
determine
it.
the last check that the person is entitled to upon death?
Oh,
the-
that's $250.
Oh, yes,
No,
you.
but-
No,
That's your death
that's your death
benefit.
benefit.
55.
But is, wouldn't it be based on
The
Remember, I
month
just
that they
the
die.
month they, right?
Right,
Whether they
it's
paid
prorated.
ahead or behind, or
$150 is
Social Security paid
$400.
ahead or behind. If somebody, say, dies in September, do they take September's, or do they take August's, or?
You're just not gonna get a check after
I
that.
think they take back the check that they
They
sent
take
in
back the
September.
check
If they
that
sent you,
for that
right, if
month.
you died in
And then
September,
they
they're not gonna
decide
pay
whether
you
or
in
not they're gonna send
September.
it again.
Yeah, they'll recalculate it and.
Okay. I
How much you
guess,
charge an hour?
first meeting's always free.
Okay.
And a lot of times, that's all people need, is it's more, you know, this is group setting, it's individualized, and then after that, it all depends on every unique situation. Because some people don't need a lot of me, and some people do. I mean, you,
Yeah.
if that made any sense at all,
Yeah.
but,
That's good to
awesome.
know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys
Thank
are
you.
awesome.